Have you ever met someone who commands a room without raising their voice? A person who possesses a quiet, unspoken authority, an effortless confidence, a presence that is felt the moment they enter, long before they have uttered a single word. What is that quality? It is not style. It is not charisma. It is something far deeper. It is substance. For years, you have likely been told a lie. The lie is that this powerful presence, this unshakable character, is a gift, a trait of personality that some are born with and others are not. The truth is far more powerful and far more exciting. A powerful presence is not a gift. It is a construction. It is an architectural achievement, built with the same intention, the same precision, and the same daily discipline as a great cathedral. What if the reason you have felt overlooked or unheard or lacking in the confidence you know you possess is not because you lack potential, but simply because no one ever handed you the blueprint? This is that blueprint. What we are about to study are the 7 fundamental disciplines for the architecture of an unshakable character. This is not about faking it till you make it. This is about building it, brick by disciplined brick, until you become it. So, if you are ready to stop wishing for confidence and start constructing it, if you are ready to build a presence so real and so powerful that it speaks for you, then your work begins now. At the dawn of each new day, every one of us is presented with a fundamental and life-altering choice. It is a quiet choice, made not with a grand announcement for the world to hear, but in the silent, solitary chambers of our own mind. It is the choice between 2 distinct and divergent paths. The first path is wide. It is comfortable. It is well trodden by the great masses of people. It is the path of ease today. It is the path of the snooze button, the path of the comfortable distraction, the path of the convenient excuse. It is the path of choosing what is easy now, but we must be ruthlessly honest about the destination of this path. The path of ease today leads, with an inevitable and unforgiving certainty, to a life of difficulty tomorrow. It is the path of short-term comfort that leads to a final destination of long-term regret. And then there is the second path. This path is different. It is narrower. It is steeper. It is at first more difficult. It is the path of discipline today. It is the path of choosing the productive discomfort of waking up early, of facing the difficult task, of pushing through the resistance. It is the path of choosing what is hard now. And the destination of this path is also certain. The path of discipline today leads to a life of strength, of freedom, of options, and of profound and unshakable peace forever. Life, you see, is a magnificent and a relentless architect. It is, at this very moment, building you. The only question is whether you will hand it the blueprints of your own deliberate design, or whether you will allow it to build a life for you by default, using the flimsy, readily available materials of your environment, your impulses, and your desire for comfort. And this brings us to the great subject of our study today, the subject of mental toughness, of that unshakable resolve, that quiet confidence, that inner fortitude that we so admire in the great men and women of history. We must begin by dismantling a great and pervasive myth. Mental fortitude is not a character trait that some are born with and others are not. It is not a gift bestowed upon a chosen few. Mental fortitude is an architecture. It is a structure. It is an internal fortress that must be designed, engineered, and then built, deliberately, stone by stone, one disciplined choice at a time. And that is what we are here to study. We will not be dealing in the fleeting hype of motivation. We will not be discussing gentle encouragement. We are here to engage in a serious, architectural study of the 7 core disciplines required to construct an unshakable mind. This is a lecture on the architecture of your character. It is the working blueprint for forging the kind of person who does not break, who does not bend, and who does not falter when the great and inevitable storms of life come, as they surely will. If you are tired of being controlled by your feelings, if you are tired of being derailed by discomfort, if you are tired of living below the magnificent potential that you know resides within you, then you must stay. The construction of your new self begins now. Let us first examine the consequences of an unarchitected life. What happens if you do not make a conscious choice to build your own character? Most people do not actively choose the path of ease. They simply drift onto it. It is the path of default. And if you do not deliberately design your character, a character will be designed for you by 3 powerful, invisible, and often malicious architects. The first architect of a default life is your environment. You will become a direct and unavoidable reflection of the people you associate with, the information you consume, and the physical space you inhabit. If you surround yourself with people who complain, who make excuses, and who live without discipline, their philosophy will seep into your own, like a slow and subtle poison. If you feed your mind a daily diet of trivial entertainment, negative news, and endless social media feeds, your thoughts will become trivial, negative, and scattered. You become a product of your inputs. The second architect of a default life is your feelings. A life built by default is a life governed by the tyranny of emotion. The phrase, "I don't feel like it," becomes the master architect, the absolute monarch of your existence. Your commitments, your goals, and your great ambitions are all held hostage by the fickle, unpredictable, and often irrational weather of your daily mood. And the third architect of a default life is your past. In the absence of a deliberate design for your future, you will simply repeat the patterns of your past. Not because those patterns are effective, not because they are serving you, but simply because they are familiar. The comfort of a known failure often feels safer than the uncertainty of a new and better path. And what is the nature of the house that these three architects, your environment, your feelings, and your past, will build for you? They will build a house on a foundation of sand. It may look fine on a calm, sunny day. It may have the appearance of a normal life, but it has no integrity. It has no depth. It has no strength. It is a fragile and hollow facade. And the person who lives within that house lives in a state of constant, low-grade anxiety because deep down they know that they are unprepared. They know that they are one strong gust of wind, one unexpected storm, away from a total collapse. This is the life of the drifter. We are here to choose a different path. We are here to seize the tools, to unroll the blueprint, and to become the master architect of our own character. This requires a new philosophy of building. Mental fortitude is not an abstract feeling you hope to one day possess. It is a system. It is a structure. It has a foundation. It has pillars. It has a roof. It is something you deliberately and methodically construct. And what are the raw materials for this great construction? They are not exotic or difficult to find. The raw materials for your internal fortress are your daily choices and your daily disciplines. Every single time you choose to get up when the alarm rings, instead of hitting the snooze button, you are mixing the concrete and pouring a small, solid section of your foundation. Every time you choose to push through a difficult workout when your body wants to stop, you are laying another heavy, powerful stone in the walls of your fortress. Every time you choose to read a book and expand your mind, instead of succumbing to the easy lure of passive entertainment, you are installing a reinforced window, allowing the light of wisdom to enter your structure. And every time you keep a small promise to yourself, every time your actions align with your words, you are applying the unbreakable mortar of integrity that binds the entire structure together, making it strong and indivisible. The architect of character is a craftsman. They are not a magician. The building of this fortress is not a mystical process that happens overnight. It is the slow, the patient, the deliberate, and often the boring work of the master builder. It is the daily grind. It is the relentless commitment to laying one brick perfectly, and then another, and then another. There is an old story of two builders. Both were tasked with building a house to withstand the great storms that would sweep through the valley. The first builder, a man in a hurry, chose to build with the materials that were easiest to acquire and quickest to assemble. He built a beautiful house of mud and sticks on the soft sand of the valley floor. The work was fast and it was comfortable. The second builder was a man of a different philosophy. He chose to build his house on the high rocky ground. He spent long, arduous weeks quarrying heavy stone and shaping it with precision. His work was slow, it was uncomfortable, and it was difficult. And then the storm came. The winds howled and the rains fell. And the beautiful house of mud and sticks, the house built on the foundation of ease, was washed away, leaving no trace. But the house built of stone, the house built on the foundation of discipline, stood firm. It was tested, but it was not broken. The builder was safe. The materials of your character are your daily choices. You must decide. Will you build with the mud of comfort and the sticks of convenience? Or will you have the discipline to build with the stone of deliberate effort? This is the architecture of character. And the 7 disciplines we are about to study are the working blueprint for this construction. They are the 7 load-bearing pillars of your new internal fortress. Our first pillar will be the discipline of a definite purpose. This is the master blueprint itself, the clear and compelling vision for the fortress you intend to build. For toughness without a clear target is just pointless aggression. Our second will be the art of deliberate discomfort. This is the quarrying of the stone. It is the difficult, daily labor of choosing the hard path that ultimately makes you stronger. Our third will be the discipline of emotional sovereignty. This is the calm and steady command of the architect on the construction site, the art of leading your feelings instead of being led by them. Our fourth will be the principle of self-governance. This is the assertion of the authority of the architect over the lazy and comfort-seeking impulses of the work crew within your own mind. Our fifth will be the architecture of environment. This is the strategic selection of your building site and the deliberate cultivation of the people, the places, and the information that will support your construction. Our sixth will be the discipline of silent execution. This is the work itself, not the talk about the work. It is the quiet, dignified laying of the bricks, day after day, without the need for an audience. And our seventh and final pillar will be the virtue of integrity. This is the ultimate quality of the finished structure, the unshakable strength that comes from becoming a person who is whole, undivided, and true to themselves. This is not a lecture on finding strength. It is a lecture on building it. The work is hard, the process is long, but the rewards are permanent. The choice is yours. Will you allow your character to be an accident, a fragile shack built by the winds of circumstance? Or will you pick up the blueprint and begin the noble, difficult, and magnificent work of building your own unshakable fortress? Let us now turn to the first page of our blueprint, the foundation upon which everything else is built, the discipline of a definite purpose. We have now committed to the great and noble work of building an unshakable mind. We have made the conscious choice to step off the path of default and to become the deliberate architect of our own character. But where does this magnificent construction begin? It does not begin with our external actions. It does not begin with our posture or our speech or the habits that the world can see. It begins in a place that is far more private, far more silent, and far more profoundly powerful. It begins in the invisible, internal theater of our own mind. This brings us to the first and most foundational discipline of all. It is the discipline that lays the very foundation upon which our entire fortress of character will be built. This is the discipline of the internal dialogue. You must understand a fundamental truth of the human experience. The most important and most influential voice you will ever hear in your entire life is your own. It is the constant, running commentary that plays in your mind from the moment you wake until the moment you sleep. It is the narrator of your reality, and the quality of that narration will, with an almost mathematical certainty, determine the quality of your life. If that narrator is critical, if it is doubtful, if it is weak and pessimistic, then the story of your life will inevitably become a tragedy. But if you can train that narrator to be strong, to be clear, to be encouraging, and to be disciplined, then the story of your life can become an epic. The great tragedy is that for most people, their internal dialogue is not a deliberate creation. It is an accident. It is a chaotic and untended stream of self-criticism, of reheated grievances from the past, of anxieties about the future, and of the negative opinions of others that they have mistakenly adopted as their own. Their mind is not a well-tended garden. It is a field that has been left to be overgrown with the weeds of doubt and fear. They are a victim of their own thoughts. The architect of an unshakable mind understands that this internal landscape is the very first and most important piece of ground upon which they must build. You must become the deliberate and disciplined guardian of your own self-talk. This brings us to the most critical and programmable moments of your entire day. The first 5 minutes after you wake up, and the last 5 minutes before you fall asleep. Let us first examine the morning. You wake up, and for a few precious silent seconds, your mind is a quiet and fertile garden. The noise of the world, the rush of the day, has not yet begun its invasion. In that moment, you are the first and most powerful sower of the day. And the thoughts you choose to plant in that fertile ground will determine, to a magnificent degree, the harvest of your entire day's attitude, energy, and confidence. What do most people do in this sacred moment? They allow the weeds of the previous day, the worries, the failures, the resentments to immediately and automatically resprout. Their first thought is one of burden. Oh, another day. I'm so tired. I have so much to do. Or, even worse, they reach for their phone. And in that single, seemingly harmless act, they surrender their sovereignty. They allow the chaos, the demands, the anxieties, and the agendas of the outside world to be the very first seeds planted in the garden of their mind. They begin their day, not as an architect, but as a reactor. The discipline of the internal dialogue demands a different approach. It demands that you, the architect, seize control of this first fertile moment. This is not about empty affirmations or fake, hyped-up positivity. This is about the disciplined act of programming your mind with the truth of your intention. You must understand, your thoughts are like seeds. You plant them, and they grow. If the first thoughts and words you plant in your mind are, "I'm tired," or "I can't do this," or "Nothing ever changes for me," then what harvest do you expect to reap in the afternoon? You will reap a harvest of fatigue, of doubt, and of defeat. But if you, by a deliberate act of will, choose to plant different seeds, you will reap a different harvest. The moment you awaken, before your feet even touch the floor, you will plant the seeds of strength. You will say to yourself, silently or out loud, "I am capable. I am disciplined. I am getting stronger today. I will face this day with courage and with a definite purpose." This is the programming. This is not about lying to yourself. It is about speaking the truth of the identity you have chosen to build. You are reminding yourself of the blueprint. You are giving your subconscious mind its marching orders for the day. The transcript asks a powerful question. If I spoke to a friend the way I speak to myself every morning, would they still want me in their life? For many, the honest answer is no. We would never tolerate a friend who constantly criticized us, doubted us, and reminded us of our past failures. Yet, we allow that very voice to be the narrator in our own heads. This must stop. You must become your own most powerful and most disciplined ally. This discipline continues when you stand before the mirror. The mirror is a powerful tool. When you look at yourself, you must practice the discipline of a powerful presence. You will stand tall. You will look yourself directly in the eye, and you will speak your intentions for the day with a quiet authority. Even if your voice shakes, even if you do not fully believe it, yet, as the transcript so wisely says, confidence comes from consistency, not from certainty. The act of repeating these truths, day after day, is the work. The repetition, over time, becomes your belief. Your belief begins to shape your behavior, and your behavior, practiced consistently, becomes your new identity. This is how you grow into the person you intend to be. Now, let us turn to the second half of this discipline, the last 5 minutes of the day. If the morning is for sowing the seeds of intention, the evening is for gathering the harvest of evidence. The human brain, for its own ancient, survival-based reasons, has a powerful negativity bias. It is naturally wired to focus on threats, on problems, on what went wrong. It is a survival mechanism. If you go through your day and 10 things go right, but one thing goes wrong, what will your mind naturally dwell on as you lie in bed? It will obsess over the one failure. If you allow this default programming to run your life, you will go to sleep every single night in a state of perceived deficit. You will fall asleep with the feeling of not enough, not productive enough, not good enough, not successful enough, and you will wake up the next morning with that same feeling of lack, making the discipline of positive self-talk even more difficult. The architect must deliberately and systematically override this negative programming. You must practice the discipline of reflecting on your wins. Before you go to sleep, you will not allow your mind to drift into its default state of worry and self-criticism. You will take control. You will sit in silence for a few minutes, and you will deliberately walk back through your day, not looking for your failures, but looking for your victories. And what constitutes a victory? A victory is not just a great external achievement. A victory is any instance where you kept a promise to yourself. A victory is any moment where you acted in alignment with one of your 7 disciplines. Did you wake up on time without hitting the snooze button? That is a victory of deliberate discomfort. Acknowledge it. Did you speak with clarity and avoid filler words in an important conversation? That is a victory of deliberate speech. Acknowledge it. Did you choose to do the difficult work instead of escaping into distraction? That is a victory of self-governance. Acknowledge it. Did you handle a difficult emotion with sovereignty and grace? That is a victory. Did you keep your word to yourself on a small promise? That is a victory of integrity. You must not judge the size of the win. If it was an act of discipline, if it moved you forward even 1 millimeter on your architectural journey, it counts. You will replay that moment in your mind. You will feel the quiet, internal pride of that choice. You are giving yourself the credit you have earned. This act of reflecting on your wins is powerful. It is programming your subconscious mind for progress. It is training your brain to see growth, to value effort, and to recognize your own emerging strength. You are falling asleep with the evidence of your own capability as your final thought. This closes the loop. You fall asleep with the feeling of progress, which allows you to wake up with a quiet confidence. That quiet confidence makes your morning self-talk more believable and more powerful. That powerful self-talk sets the stage for a day of more disciplined choices. And those disciplined choices give you more victories to reflect on in the evening. This is the upward spiral of an unshakable mind. Your past may have been written by others. The internal dialogue you currently have may be an echo of the critical voices of your parents, your teachers, or your peers. But from this day forward, you must understand that you, and you alone, are the author. You have the choice, in every single moment, to seize the pen. You can rewrite the story. The language of the victim is, "This is happening to me." The language of the architect is, "I am responding to this." The discipline of the internal dialogue is where you practice this magnificent shift in language, and therefore, in identity. This, then, is the foundation. An unshakable mind is built upon an unshakable foundation. And that foundation is a disciplined, a purposeful, and a self-respecting internal dialogue. It is the private conversation that gives you the unwavering strength to face all the public battles to come. It is the work of planting the garden, in which all the other virtues will eventually grow. With this internal foundation now poured and beginning to set, we must turn our attention to the physical structure that houses this mind. We must learn how to project this newfound internal strength into the visible, physical world. And this brings us to our second discipline, the discipline of physical presence. We have now begun the great work of our architecture in the most private, most sacred, and most important space of all, the silent theater of our own mind. We have committed to the first great discipline, the discipline of the internal dialogue, the art of planting the seeds of strength and purpose in the fertile garden of our first and last thoughts of the day. But a well-tended garden, however magnificent, must eventually produce a visible harvest. The internal architecture of our character, if it is real, must have an external and tangible expression. The strength we are building on the inside must be projected into the world on the outside. This brings us to the second, and most visible, of our 7 disciplines. It is the discipline that translates our inner state into a powerful, non-verbal message that is understood in every language and in every culture. This is the discipline of physical presence. Let us begin by diagnosing a common affliction of the modern individual. It is the affliction of the disconnected self. Most people live their lives almost entirely in their heads. They treat their body as a mere vehicle, a form of transportation to carry their brain from one meeting to another. They are tragically unaware that their physical state and their mental state are in a constant, dynamic, and powerful conversation with each other. You must understand this. Your body is a physical record of your thoughts, of your fears, and of your deepest beliefs about yourself. A long history of doubt and insecurity is written in the permanent curve of your spine. A long history of timidity is etched in the habit of a downward glance. A lifetime of quiet confidence is communicated in the steady set of your shoulders. Your body is the ambassador of your internal kingdom. It is the very first representative of your mind that anyone, including yourself, ever meets. And long before you have spoken a single word, your ambassador has already delivered a powerful and convincing speech. It has communicated your level of self-respect. It has communicated your level of confidence. It has communicated your level of seriousness and your degree of purpose. The great and urgent question is this: what speech is your ambassador giving on your behalf right now? And is it the speech you would have it give? The discipline of physical presence is the art of deliberately training this ambassador, of consciously crafting this message. It is a discipline in 2 distinct, but inseparable, parts: the architecture of your posture and the discipline of your appearance. Let us first examine the pillar of strength, the architecture of your posture. Posture is a profound psychological statement. Consider the posture of defeat. The shoulders are rounded forward, the chest is concave, the head is bowed, and the gaze is directed toward the ground. In the animal kingdom, this is the posture of submission. It is a physical attempt to make oneself smaller, to take up less space, to appear non-threatening. It is, in essence, a physical apology for one's own existence. And this posture does more than just reflect a feeling of weakness. It actively creates it. When you slouch, you physically restrict your ability to breathe deeply. This shallow breathing sends a signal of anxiety and threat to your nervous system. You are, through your body, telling your mind to be timid, to be unsafe, to shrink. Now, consider the posture of quiet power. The spine is long and straight. The shoulders are back and relaxed. The chest is open. The chin is level with the ground, and the eyes are looking forward, engaging with the world. This is the posture of ownership. It is the physical expression of occupying your space with a calm and earned and an unapologetic confidence. This posture of strength, like its opposite, creates a powerful feedback loop to the brain. When you stand tall, you open your diaphragm, allowing for deep, calming breaths. This slows your heart rate. It reduces the production of stress hormones, and it sends a powerful primal signal to your mind that says, I am in control. I am safe. I am ready. This is the great secret that the transcript alludes to. You do not just stand tall because you feel confident. You begin to feel confident because you stand tall. The physical action precedes and generates the emotional state. This is not faking it. This is a profound and practical tool of self-governance. It is the architect deliberately using the physical structure to influence the internal state. The mechanics of this are simple, but they require a lifetime of conscious practice. Imagine there is a string attached to the very crown of your head, gently pulling you upward toward the sky. Let your spine lengthen. Let your shoulders relax, away from your ears. Let your chest open. This is not a rigid, tense, or military stance. It is a state of relaxed, aligned, and grounded strength. There is a story of two candidates, both interviewing for a position of great responsibility. On paper, their qualifications were identical. The first candidate entered the room, and as he walked toward the table, his shoulders were slumped, and his eyes were darting around the room, avoiding direct contact. He was physically broadcasting a message of insecurity. The second candidate entered the room. She walked with a calm and deliberate pace, her posture upright, her head held high. She met the interviewer's gaze with a steady and respectful confidence. Before a single word of qualification was spoken, which of these two candidates had already begun to win? It was the one whose physical presence was in perfect alignment with the message of competence and self-respect. This brings us to the second half of this discipline, the facade of intention, which is the discipline of your appearance. I must be very clear. This is not a lecture on vanity. It is not about expensive clothes or the chasing of fleeting fashions. It is about something far deeper. It is about the ritual of self-respect. The act of getting dressed in the morning must be elevated from a mundane and thoughtless chore into a powerful and deliberate ritual. It is the act of putting on the uniform for the role you have decided to play that day. And that role is the role of the architect, the role of the professional, the role of a person of discipline and of purpose. When you take the time to put on clothes that are clean, that are neat, that are pressed, you are sending a powerful signal to your own mind. You are saying, today matters. This work matters. I matter. And I will show up for my life, not with sloppiness and neglect, but with dignity and with intention. The person who cannot be trusted with the small and simple details of their own appearance is unlikely to be trusted by others with the large and important details of a great enterprise. Attention to detail is a philosophy, and it begins with the details of your own person. There is a concept known as the broken windows theory. The theory observes that a single, unrepaired, broken window in a neighborhood sends a signal that neglect is tolerated. This signal leads to more broken windows, more disorder, and eventually, a decline of the entire area. This law applies to the self. A sloppy and careless appearance, a wrinkled shirt, unkempt grooming, scuffed shoes is a broken window. It sends a silent signal to your own brain that a low standard is acceptable. This small initial breach of discipline makes it easier to tolerate larger breaches of discipline in other, more important areas of your life. Conversely, a neat, clean, and intentional appearance reinforces a high standard. It tells your mind that today, we will be operating at a level of excellence, starting with this first, simple act. That 10 minutes you spend on your appearance in the morning is not wasted time. It is one of the most leveraged investments you will make all day. And the return on that investment is a quiet, steady confidence that will follow you for the next 10 hours. Now, the voice of the resistance will fight you on this. It will say, I'll dress better when I feel better. I'll dress for success when I am successful. But as we know, this is the backward logic of the amateur. The architect understands the truth. You must dress better in order to feel better. You do not dress for the job you have. You dress for the job you want. You do not dress as the person you are. You dress as the person you are deliberately and intentionally becoming. Your appearance is a tool for programming your own identity. When you walk past a mirror and you see a reflection that is put together, that is neat, that is intentional, something powerful happens. You walk a little taller, you speak a little clearer, you feel a little more in control, and you are more likely to step into an opportunity because you are not second-guessing the message your appearance is sending. This, then, is the discipline of physical presence. It is the bridge between your inner world and the outer world. It is the art of making your inner strength and your inner self-respect visible. Your internal dialogue, our first discipline, is the composer, writing the magnificent music of your own value and purpose. Your physical presence is the orchestra, playing that music for the entire world to see and to feel, long before a single word is spoken. When these two are in perfect alignment, when your internal conversation of strength is matched by your external posture of strength, you begin to speak a powerful and unspoken language. People will feel your confidence before they hear your arguments. They will sense your seriousness before you state your intentions. This is not a trick. This is the natural and inevitable result of a person who is living in a state of alignment, a state of integrity. But a powerful presence, however magnificent, is incomplete if it exists only in isolation. It must be able to connect with others, to influence, to understand, and to lead. We must now learn to turn this newfound internal and physical strength outward and to engage with the world with a new level of grace and power. And this brings us to our third discipline, the art of genuine connection. We have now completed the first two stages of our architectural work. With our first discipline, we have laid the magnificent, unseen foundation of our internal dialogue, planting the seeds of strength and self-respect in the private garden of our own mind. With our second, we have constructed the visible facade, committing to the discipline of physical presence, ensuring that our posture and our appearance send a silent, powerful message of confidence and purpose before we have spoken a single word. We have, in essence, built a magnificent internal fortress. Our mind is clear, and our physical bearing is strong. But a fortress, if its gates are always closed and its drawbridge is always up, is not a symbol of strength. It is a prison of isolation. An unshakable mind is not built to hide from the world. It is built to engage with the world from a position of strength. This brings us to our third discipline. It is the art that gives our internal character its external influence. It is the discipline that builds the bridges from our fortress to the hearts and minds of others. This is the art of genuine connection. Let us begin by diagnosing the great paradox of our modern age. We are, by all technical measures, the most connected generation in human history. Through the magic of technology, we can communicate with anyone, anywhere, at any time. And yet, we are, by all measures of substance, the most disconnected. We have substituted the depth of genuine human connection for the shallow, frantic breadth of digital interaction. We have become masters of the broadcast and amateurs in the art of the conversation. Observe the world around you. In a coffee shop, in an office, even at a family dinner table, you will see people who are physically present, but mentally and spiritually absent. They are in their phones. They are lost in their own thoughts. And in conversation, they are not truly listening. They are simply waiting, with a polite but impatient silence, for their own turn to speak. This has created a world of shallow, transactional interactions, a world where most people are living in a state of quiet, profound loneliness. And in this reality lies a magnificent opportunity, for there is a fundamental and universal hunger in the human soul. It is the deep, primal, and often unmet desire to be truly seen, to be truly heard, and to be truly understood. The person who can satisfy this hunger, the person who can provide the rare and precious gift of their full, undivided attention, will possess an almost magical level of influence, of respect, and of personal power. This is the essence of a powerful presence. Imagine you attend a great party. The first host is the center of attention. He is charismatic, tells magnificent stories, and commands the focus of the entire room. He is impressive. You leave the party knowing a great deal about him. The second host is different. She moves quietly through the party. She does not seek the spotlight. Instead, she creates small, quiet circles of attention around others. When she speaks with you, she speaks with you, and you alone. She looks you in the eye. She listens, with a deep and genuine curiosity, to your story. And for those 5 minutes, you feel as though you are the most important and most interesting person in the room. At the end of the night, which of these two hosts is merely popular, and which one is truly respected, trusted, and loved? Which one has forged a genuine connection? The discipline of genuine connection is the art of becoming the second host in every interaction of your life. It is a discipline built on two foundational practices: the discipline of the unwavering gaze and the art of the emptied cup. Let us first speak of the eyes. Before the invention of language, there was the gaze. It is our most ancient, our most primal, and our most brutally honest form of communication. Your eyes are, as the old poet said, the windows to your soul, and they are also the gateways to the soul of another. To avoid eye contact is to send a powerful nonverbal message. It is a message that says, I am insecure, or I am dishonest, or I am uninterested. It is the physical act of hiding. The architect of an unshakable mind does not hide. They have committed to a life of integrity and of presence. And so, they must master the discipline of direct eye contact. This is not a discipline of aggression. It is not a staring contest designed to intimidate. It is a discipline of calm, steady, and respectful engagement. When you are speaking with another person, you will give them the gift of your gaze. You will look them in the eye, and in doing so, you will communicate a series of powerful, silent truths. First, you are communicating trust. The direct gaze is a universal signal of honesty and transparency. You are saying, I have nothing to hide. What I am is what you see. This builds an immediate and powerful bridge of rapport. Second, you are communicating respect. By holding their gaze, you are saying, in this moment, you have my full and undivided attention. You matter. Your words matter. In our distracted world, this gift of pure attention is one of the highest forms of respect you can offer. And third, you are communicating confidence. A steady, calm gaze is a direct reflection of a calm and steady mind. It is a sign of internal fortitude. It communicates, without a word, that you are not easily intimidated, you are not easily distracted, and you are grounded in your own sense of self-worth. The mechanics of this are simple, but they require conscious practice. It is a soft, relaxed focus. It is the calm gaze of the listener, a gaze that is more interested in receiving than it is in projecting. If you find it difficult, you can practice the simple technique of looking from one of the person's eyes to the other, and then briefly to their mouth. This creates a natural and engaging pattern that prevents the feeling of an aggressive stare. In every important conversation of your life, a job interview, a difficult negotiation, a heartfelt conversation with a loved one, the quality of your eye contact will be a determining factor in the outcome. Your words carry the information, but your eyes carry the conviction. This brings us to the second and more difficult practice of this discipline. It is the art of the emptied cup, which is the discipline of active listening. Most people believe that listening is a passive act. They believe it is the simple, biological function of hearing sounds. They believe it is merely the absence of talking. This is a profound and fundamental error. True listening, the listening of the architect, is an active, a focused, and an intellectually and emotionally demanding discipline. It is a form of deep engagement. There is a timeless saying from the ancient philosophers: to learn, you must first empty your cup. If your cup is already full of your own opinions, your own ego, and your own next sentence, you have no room to receive what the other person is offering. Active listening is the art of deliberately and consciously emptying your own cup. There are 4 levels of listening. The first is ignoring. You are physically present, but you are mentally and spiritually absent. The second is pretend listening. This is the level at which most people operate. You are nodding. You are making the appropriate affirmative sounds, right, I see. But you are not truly hearing. You are simply waiting for the other person to take a breath so that you can jump in with your own brilliant and pre-rehearsed point. This is not listening. It is a polite and patient form of conversational warfare. The third is attentive listening. This is a step up. You are now actively focused on the words being said. You are trying to understand the content of the message. This is the level of the good student. But the fourth level, the architect's level, is empathic listening. This is the art of listening not just for the words, but for the feeling behind the words. You are listening for what is not being said. You are listening for the emotion, for the hesitation, for the underlying need. You are not just trying to understand their argument. You are trying to understand their world. To practice this art, you must master a few simple but powerful tools. The first is the power of the question. The master listener uses questions not to interrogate or to trap the other person, but to clarify, to deepen, and to show that they are engaged. Simple questions like, tell me more about that, or how did that make you feel, or what was the most difficult part of that for you? These are invitations. They are the tools you use to help the other person explore their own thoughts and feelings more deeply. The second tool is the gift of the pause. When the other person has finished speaking, you will resist the amateur's urge to immediately jump in. You will instead pause for 1 or 2 full beats of silence. This small act is incredibly powerful. It communicates that you are not just waiting for your turn to speak. It communicates that you are actually considering the weight of what they have just said. And the third tool is the art of paraphrasing. After you have listened intently, you will briefly summarize what you heard in your own words. So, if I am understanding you correctly, what you are saying is, this is the ultimate act of listening respect. It proves without a doubt that you are not just hearing, you are understanding. And it gives the other person the gift of hearing their own thoughts reflected back to them with clarity. When you commit to this discipline, to the unwavering gaze and the emptied cup, you will find that your entire world begins to change. Your relationships will deepen, your influence will grow, and your own personal confidence will become unshakable. For true, lasting strength is not the intimidating presence of a fortress with its walls held high in isolation. It is the quiet, confident strength of a fortress that is so secure in its own foundation that it can afford to lower its drawbridge and engage with the world from a place of genuine connection and of peace. This is the discipline that gives our internal strength its external power. It is the art of turning our fortress into a capital city, a place of influence, of connection, and of leadership. But when we do choose to speak, our words must be as disciplined as our listening. We must now turn our attention to the tool that will give our voice its authority, its clarity, and its power. And this brings us to our fourth discipline, the discipline of deliberate speech. We have now laid the great foundational pillars of our internal architecture. We have learned to master our internal dialogue, planting the seeds of our own strength. We have disciplined our physical presence, projecting that strength into the world without a word. And we have committed to the art of genuine connection, the profound skill of building bridges to the hearts and minds of others, through our unwavering gaze and our deep, active listening. We are now present, we are connected, we are listening with an emptied cup. But eventually the time for listening will end, and we must speak. And in that moment, the entire structure of our character, our intellect, and our confidence is put to the test. For our words are the final and most direct expression of our mind. They are the audible architecture of our thoughts. This brings us to the fourth discipline, the art that gives our presence its voice, its authority, and its impact. This is the discipline of deliberate speech. Let us begin by diagnosing the great affliction of our time, the age of noise. We are drowning in a torrential sea of careless, impulsive, and unthoughtful words. We are bombarded by social media comments, by endless chatter, by instant reactions, by undistilled opinions. In this deluge of noise, the value of the spoken word itself has been tragically devalued and diluted. Most people have adopted the habits of this noisy age. They speak not to communicate a clear thought, but to fill a silence they are uncomfortable with. They speak to express a fleeting, unexamined emotion. They speak to perform a version of themselves they wish to be, rather than to express the truth of who they are. And their speech reflects this internal chaos. It is cluttered. It is disorganized. It is riddled with the verbal static of ums, ahs, you knows, and likes. Now, you must understand, these are not just minor verbal tics. They are the audible symptoms of a mind that has not done the difficult internal work of clarification. The transcript states it with brutal accuracy. How you speak tells people how you think. A mind that is cluttered, disorganized, and uncertain will inevitably produce speech that is cluttered, disorganized, and uncertain. Imagine you possess a brilliant and powerful light source. This is your idea, your thought, your truth. Now imagine you attempt to project that light through a cheap, smudged, and unfocused lens. What is the image that appears on the wall? It is a blurry, indistinct, and powerless blob. The power and the brilliance of the light source have been completely lost in the transmission. Your speech is the lens of your mind. The discipline of deliberate speech is the art of grinding, polishing, and focusing that lens, so that when your ideas pass through it, they are projected onto the world with perfect, undeniable clarity and power. This requires us to elevate our understanding of language itself. Words are not just tools for describing our reality. Words are the tools we use to create our reality. The language you consistently use, both internally and externally, shapes your own perceptions and the perceptions of others. The person who constantly uses the language of victimhood, I can't, it's not fair, this always happens to me, is literally, with their own words, constructing a world in which they are powerless. The person of discipline, the architect, understands this. They choose their words with the same care and precision that a master carpenter chooses their tools. They choose the language of agency, of responsibility, and of possibility. I will. How can I? What is the next step? This brings us to the three essential pillars of deliberate, powerful speech. The first is clarity. Your speech must be clear, but clarity of speech is impossible without clarity of thought. This is why most people ramble. They are attempting to figure out what they think while they are speaking. The architect does their thinking first. They know the single, most important point they wish to make before they open their mouth. The second pillar is conviction. Your speech must have weight. It must have substance. This does not come from the volume of your voice. It comes from speaking from a place of genuine belief and deep alignment with your own values and your own experience. It is the profound difference between reciting a script and speaking your truth. Conviction is the sound of your virtue of integrity made audible. And the third pillar is concision. Your speech must be efficient. It is the art of saying the most with the fewest, most well-chosen words. In an age of noise, brevity is a superpower. Concision demonstrates to your listener that you have done the difficult work of distilling your thoughts down to their essential core. It is a profound sign of respect for their time and their attention. Now, to master these three pillars, we must master a tool that most people fear above all else. We must master the tool of silence. The amateur speaker is terrified of silence. They perceive a pause in the conversation as a failure, a void that must be immediately filled with noise, with a filler word, with an or an ah. The master communicator understands that silence is not the absence of speech. Silence is an integral and powerful part of speech. It is the canvas upon which your words are painted. Words spoken in a rush, one after another, become a meaningless blur. But a word, followed by a deliberate pause, gains weight, gravity, and magnificent power. Silence is a tool. It is the tool you use to create emphasis. It is the tool you use to create tension and anticipation. And most importantly, it is the tool you use to demonstrate your own unshakable composure. The person who is comfortable with silence is a person who is comfortable with themselves. They are not in a frantic rush to prove their worth by filling the air with sound. They have a quiet authority. Imagine two advisors called to give counsel to a great king. The first advisor rushes into the throne room, out of breath, and immediately begins to speak with a torrent of disorganized, panicked words. He is full of ums and ahs and frantic explanations. He creates an atmosphere of chaos and anxiety. The second advisor enters the room with a calm and deliberate presence. He pauses. He makes eye contact with the king. He organizes his thoughts. And then he speaks. His words are simple, they are clear, and they are concise. He is not just delivering information. He is demonstrating composure. Which of these two advisors does the king trust? Which one's words carry the weight of authority? The choice is obvious. You must learn to be the second advisor in every interaction of your life. So how do we practice this art? How do we, in practical terms, train ourselves to become deliberate and powerful speakers? The first tactic is the discipline of the preparatory pause. Before you speak on any matter of importance in a meeting, on a phone call, even in a conversation with a loved one, you must train the reflex to pause. Take one single deep breath. And in that brief moment of silence, ask yourself one question. What is the single most important point I need to make right now? This simple 1-second discipline is a powerful antidote to rambling. It forces you to find your target before you fire your arrow. The second tactic is to wage a conscious and deliberate war on filler words. These are the verbal weeds in the garden of your speech, and they must be ruthlessly pulled. The first step is awareness. You must become a student of your own speech. You can ask a trusted friend or colleague to point out your verbal tics. Or you can perform the courageous act of recording yourself speaking for a few minutes on your phone, and then listening back with the dispassionate ear of a coach. You must identify your enemy. Is it Is it ah? Is it like? Is it you know? The second step is replacement. You will not defeat a bad habit by simply trying to stop it. You must replace it with a good habit. You must train yourself to replace every filler word with a moment of silence. When you are speaking, and you feel the or the ah rising in your throat, You will train the new reflex to simply close your mouth and to pause silently for a beat. At first, this will feel awkward. It will feel like an eternity. But to the listener, it does not sound like a weakness. It sounds like you are thinking. It sounds like you are deliberate. It transforms you instantly from sounding uncertain to sounding thoughtful. The third tactic is the study of language. The lifelong student must also be a student of language. This means you must read widely. Reading is what expands your vocabulary and your understanding of the structure of a powerful sentence. It means you must listen to great speakers, not just for what they say, but for how they say it, for their rhythm, their cadence, and their use of the pause. You must take the craft of communication seriously. And the fourth tactic is the practice of simplicity. The most powerful speech is not complex speech. It is simple speech. You must resist the temptation to use fancy, academic, or corporate jargon in an attempt to sound intelligent. This is the mark of the amateur. The master has the confidence to be simple. Use simple, strong, and direct words. The goal of speech is not to impress. It is to be understood. When you commit to this discipline, a new form of authority is born in your life. It is not a forced authority based on a title or a position. It is a natural authority, a gravitational pull that is granted to you by your listeners. People want to listen to someone who has done the hard, internal work of clarifying their own thoughts. And your ability to persuade, to lead, and to inspire will grow exponentially. Clear speech translates directly into clear leadership. Perhaps most profoundly, the discipline of organizing your speech has a powerful and positive feedback effect on your mind. As you train yourself to speak with more clarity and concision, you will begin to think with more clarity and concision. You are cleaning up not just your external communication. You are architecting your internal dialogue as well. This, then, is the discipline that gives your presence its power and your ideas their impact. It is the art of ensuring that the internal strength of your character and the brilliant clarity of your mind are not lost in the fog of careless and undisciplined language. But a powerful presence is not just for the self. Its ultimate and most noble expression is in how it sees and elevates others. We must now turn our attention from the disciplines of self-construction to the great and magnanimous virtue of generosity of spirit. And this brings us to our fifth discipline, the virtue of magnanimity. We have now journeyed from the silent, internal world of our own thoughts to the external expression of our character through our presence and our speech. We have learned how to build our foundation and how to project it with clarity. You have followed this architectural study with focus, which tells me you are serious about this construction. You are not merely interested in a stronger personality. You are committed to building a life of substance. If you are ready to master the final and most profound virtues of this architecture, the disciplines that give your character its grace, its growth, and its ultimate integrity, then I invite you to solidify your commitment to this craft. Subscribe to this channel now. Consider it your formal apprenticeship in the art of building an unshakable character. By subscribing, you ensure you will not miss the capstone principles of this philosophy, and you join a community of architects dedicated to the noble work of self-creation. Commit to your apprenticeship. Subscribe now, and let us proceed to the higher levels of our design. We have now architected the great, load-bearing pillars of our internal and external presence. We have mastered our internal dialogue. We project strength through our physical presence. We forge bonds through genuine connection, and we command attention through our deliberate speech. We have, in essence, constructed a powerful and formidable self. But power, if it is hoarded and used only for the aggrandizement of the self, eventually becomes a poison. A fortress that is only concerned with its own defense, that never lowers its drawbridge to engage with the world in a positive and generative way, is not a symbol of strength. It is a monument to fear. The final stages of our architecture are not about building ourselves up, but about how we project that newfound strength outward into the world. This brings us to the fifth, and perhaps most noble and sophisticated, of our 7 disciplines. It is the virtue that crowns the unshakable mind with grace. This is the virtue of magnanimity. Now, that is a large and uncommon word, but its meaning is simple and profound. It comes from the Latin magnus, meaning great, and animus, meaning soul. Magnanimity, therefore, is the virtue of possessing a great soul. It is the discipline of being great of mind and of heart. It is the polar opposite of all that is small, petty, jealous, and insecure. The person of magnanimity is generous in spirit, noble in their actions, and expansive in their worldview. To understand this virtue, we must first diagnose its opposite, the default state in which most people live. It is the scarcity mindset. The person with a scarcity mindset sees the world as a zero-sum game. They believe that life is a finished pie, with a limited and fixed number of slices, and their primary anxious focus is on getting their slice before someone else does. In this worldview, the success of another person is a direct threat to their own. If a colleague gets a promotion, it means there is one less promotion available for them. If a friend achieves a great success, it is a painful reminder of their own shortcomings. And so, the person of scarcity lives in a world of comparison, of envy, and of quiet, corrosive criticism. Their praise for others, if it is given at all, is often insincere, a political maneuver. And their criticism is often born not of a desire to help, but of a subconscious desire to diminish the other person in a futile attempt to make themselves feel taller by comparison. The architect of an unshakable mind must utterly reject this impoverished philosophy. You must adopt, as a central tenet of your character, the philosophy of abundance. The person of abundance understands a simple and profound truth. They understand the parable of the candle. A person with a scarcity mindset believes that if they use their own flame to light another person's candle, their own flame will be diminished. They hoard their light. But the person of magnanimity, the person of abundance, understands the magnificent truth of fire. You can use your single flame to light 1,000 other candles, and your own light will not be diminished in the slightest. In fact, the only result is that the entire room becomes brighter for everyone. This brings us to the great philosophical truth of this discipline. Magnanimity is the ultimate and most undeniable sign of genuine confidence. True, deep, and unshakable self-respect is not threatened by the excellence of others. It is drawn to it. It seeks it out. It admires it. It celebrates it. It learns from it. It is only the person who is secretly and deeply insecure, the person who is unsure of their own value and their own light, who feels the petty and desperate need to extinguish the light of others. The act of tearing another person down is always, without exception, a confession of one's own sense of inadequacy. The magnanimous mind has three primary and powerful expressions. The first is generosity and praise. This is the practical application from the original transcript, the discipline of giving sincere compliments. It is the conscious and deliberate act of actively looking for the good, for the effort, for the virtue, for the spark of excellence in others, and then having the courage and the grace to speak it honestly and without any expectation of receiving anything in return. The second is generosity in judgment. Magnanimity is the discipline of assuming the best intentions in others, rather than the worst. When a person makes a mistake, the small mind immediately assumes incompetence or malice. The great soul assumes that the person was likely doing the best they could with the knowledge and the resources they had at the time. The magnanimous mind refuses to engage in the cheap, easy, and spiritually corrosive pleasure of gossip and cynical criticism. And the third is generosity in victory and defeat. The magnanimous person, when they are victorious, is always gracious. They never gloat, they never diminish their opponent, and in defeat, they are equally gracious. They are able to look their competitor in the eye, without resentment, and sincerely acknowledge their superior performance. To cultivate this virtue, you must fundamentally retrain the focus of your mind. You must shift from being a critic to being a talent scout. Most people are expert critics. They have a PhD in finding flaws. They can spot a mistake, a weakness, or a point of disagreement from a mile away. It is an easy skill to learn, and it produces nothing of value. The architect of a powerful presence must become an expert talent scout. You must, as a daily discipline, train your mind to look for the spark of excellence, the hint of virtue, the evidence of sincere effort in every single person you meet. This is not about being naive or ignoring flaws. It is about deliberately choosing what you will focus on and what you will amplify with your attention. There is a story of two leaders. The first leader rules his team through fear and criticism. He believes that by constantly pointing out everyone's flaws and mistakes, he will keep them on their toes and maintain his own position of superiority. And what is the result? His team is anxious, they are afraid to take risks, and they are secretly resentful. They do the bare minimum required to avoid being criticized. The second leader is a woman of magnanimity. She is a talent scout. She sees her primary role as finding, acknowledging, and cultivating the unique strength in each member of her team. She is generous with her praise, but it is always honest and specific. And what is the result? Her team is loyal, they are confident, they are creative, and they are willing to go to extraordinary lengths, not out of fear, but out of a deep and abiding respect for a leader who sees and values the best in them. The first leader hoards his flame. The second uses hers to light 1,000 other candles, and in doing so creates a brilliant and magnificent light. So how do we practice this art? How do we, in our daily lives, cultivate this greatness of soul? The first tactic is the discipline of the sincere compliment. The transcript is clear on this. It must be sincere. It must be honest. Flattery is the cheap and manipulative counterfeit of a true compliment. Flattery is about what the other person wants to hear. A sincere compliment is about the truth you have observed, and it must be specific. You are great is pleasant, but it is vague. It is a social nicety. I was incredibly impressed with the clarity and the courage of the question you asked in that meeting as a sincere, specific, and powerful compliment. It proves that you are not just present, you are paying attention. It is a direct application of our third discipline, the art of genuine connection. And you must give this compliment as a gift, with no expectation of receiving one in return. The moment you give a compliment in order to get something back, it ceases to be a gift and becomes a transaction. The second tactic is the practice of positive gossip. You must make a personal, ironclad rule to never, ever engage in negative gossip about another human being. It is the lowest and most common form of communication. Instead, you will practice the opposite. When someone is not in the room, you will deliberately find something admirable, something positive, something true to say about them. This single habit will radically transform your social and professional environment. It will build you a reputation as a person of profound integrity and trustworthiness. And the third tactic is the seek to understand reframe. When someone makes a mistake, when they hold an opinion you disagree with, when their behavior is frustrating, your first undisciplined, primal impulse will be to judge and to condemn. The discipline of magnanimity requires you to override that impulse. Your new, trained first response must be one of curiosity. You will say to yourself, help me understand the world from their perspective, so that I can see why this action makes sense to them. This is an act of profound intellectual generosity. It does not mean you have to agree with them, but it is the only path to true wisdom and effective leadership. When you begin to practice these disciplines, a series of magnificent rewards will flow into your life. First, you will experience the power of the law of reciprocity. When you consistently make other people feel seen, valued, and respected, that positive and powerful energy is returned to you, often tenfold. You will build a deep and wide reservoir of goodwill and trust that will support you in ways you cannot even imagine. Second, you will develop a truly magnetic presence. A magnanimous person is a magnet for high-quality people. We are drawn to them, not because they are loud or flashy, but because in their presence, we feel better about ourselves. They see our potential, and in their presence, we begin to see it too. This is the highest and most authentic form of charisma. And finally, you will be rewiring your own brain for happiness. The act of consistently looking for and acknowledging the good in the world and in others is a powerful, neurological antidote to the modern plagues of cynicism, negativity, and anxiety. You are, quite literally, training your mind to see the world as a more positive, a more abundant, and a more hopeful place. The virtue of magnanimity, then, is the discipline that gives your strength its grace and your presence its warmth. It is the art of being a sun, radiating light and warmth into the world, rather than a black hole, absorbing all the light for yourself. With our character now aimed outward, with a spirit of service and of generosity, we must ensure that we ourselves do not become stagnant. For a fortress, no matter how strong or how noble, must be constantly maintained, reinforced, and expanded. And this brings us to our sixth discipline, the commitment to daily growth. We have now architected the great pillars of a powerful and noble presence. We have established our definite purpose. We have embraced deliberate discomfort. We have claimed our emotional sovereignty and committed to self-governance. We have become the architects of our environment. And with our last principle, we have learned to project our inner strength outward with the grace and generosity of magnanimity. Our fortress is strong. Its gates are open to connection. Its voice is clear. Its spirit is generous. We have built a magnificent structure. But an architect, a true master of their craft, knows a sobering and universal truth. A structure that is not constantly maintained, that is not reinforced, that is not progressively strengthened and expanded, will, in time, be overcome by the relentless and unforgiving forces of decay and obsolescence. This brings us to the sixth discipline. It is the discipline that ensures our architecture is not a finished monument, destined to become a relic of the past, but is instead a living, breathing, and ever-expanding entity. This is the discipline that fuels all the others. This is the commitment to daily growth. Let us begin by diagnosing the great, comfortable plateau upon which most people choose to build their lives. It is the dangerous and seductive myth of arrival. Our culture promotes the idea of education as a finite event. We go to school, we graduate, and we believe our learning is finished. We achieve a certain level of competence in our career, and we believe we have arrived. We build a comfortable set of habits and beliefs, and we believe we are set. This is a fatal misunderstanding of the very nature of life. In the entire universe, there is no such thing as a static state. There is no stasis. Everything, in every moment, is either in a state of growth or it is in a state of decay. A tree is either adding new rings of growth to its trunk, or it is beginning to rot, silently, from the inside out. A business is either innovating and adapting, or it is becoming obsolete. A mind is either expanding and learning, or it is shrinking and becoming rigid. The decision to stop growing is the subconscious decision to begin dying. Imagine a person on an escalator that is slowly and relentlessly moving down. This downward moving escalator is the world. It is the force of changing technology, of new challenges, of the natural erosion of your skills over time. If the person on this escalator simply stands still, believing they have arrived, where do they end up? They end up at the bottom. If they walk at a normal, casual pace, what happens? They struggle just to stay in the same place. The only way to move up, the only way to make progress, is to deliberately and consistently climb the stairs faster than they are moving down. The commitment to daily growth is the decision to become that climber. This commitment, this discipline, is a coin with two distinct but inseparable sides. The first side is the discipline of daily learning. The second is the discipline of daily challenge. You cannot have one without the other. They are the yin and the yang of all personal evolution. Let us first examine the discipline of daily learning. Your mind is a garden. If you do not deliberately and consciously plant the seeds of new knowledge, of new skills, and of new and better philosophies, you have not created a neutral state. You have created a vacuum. And that vacuum will be inevitably filled by the seeds that are blown in by the winds of your environment. The seeds of distraction, the seeds of misinformation, the seeds of fear and of cynicism. Daily learning is the art of being the master gardener of your own intellect. There is a profound law that governs this process. Your level of success will rarely exceed your level of personal development. Your external world, your income, your influence, your impact is always and inevitably a direct reflection of your internal growth. If you wish to change your results in the world, you must first and foremost commit to changing the person who is producing those results. The work is not out there. The work is in here. My own mentor taught me to live by a simple and powerful philosophy. You must work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Your job can be taken from you. Your career can be disrupted. But the value you build within yourself, your skills, your character, your wisdom, that is an asset that can never be taken from you. It is the only true source of security in a changing world. The late starter, the person who is running a sprint to catch up, must embrace this with a special intensity. But the architect of an unshakable mind understands that this is not just a tactic for a season. It is a strategy for a lifetime. The mechanics of daily learning are simple, but they are not easy. They require the discipline we have been cultivating. The first is the reader's advantage. You must become a reader. All great leaders, all great thinkers, all great architects of life are readers. A book is a miracle. It is a device that allows you to have a direct conversation with one of the greatest minds in history, to learn in a few hours what it took that person, an entire lifetime of struggle, of failure, and of experience to discover. To neglect this magnificent resource is an act of profound arrogance. You do not need to read a book a day. You need only to commit to the simple, non-negotiable discipline of reading 10 pages of a good book every single day. It seems like nothing, but let us apply the law of compounding. 10 pages a day is over 3,600 pages a year. That is the equivalent of 12 to 15 life-changing books. In 10 years, you will have consumed the wisdom of over 100 of the finest minds in history. Do you believe that a person who has done this will think with the same quality as a person who has not? Of course not. This small, boring daily habit, compounded over time, will create a massive and insurmountable intellectual advantage. The second method is the university on wheels. You must turn your downtime into learning time. The time you spend in your car, the time you spend doing chores around the house. This is not wasted time. It is a golden opportunity for growth. By choosing to listen to educational audiobooks and programs, you can redeem these hours and transform them into your own private university. But knowledge that is not applied is merely trivia. It is a decoration, not a tool. This brings us to the second side of our coin. For every act of learning, there must be an act of testing. This is the discipline of daily challenge. Intellectual growth is not enough. Character is not forged in the safety of a library. It is forged in the arena of life. You must not only learn, you must apply. You must test yourself. You must face the friction that is necessary for all growth. As we discussed in our second discipline, growth only ever occurs at the point of resistance. The discipline of daily challenge is the deliberate, conscious act of seeking out and engaging with a small, productive discomfort every single day. The discomfort is the anvil upon which the hammer of your will forges the steel of your character. This is where you will practice the one uncomfortable thing rule. Just as you have committed to learning one new thing each day, you must also commit to doing one thing that is slightly outside of your comfort zone. This is not about taking foolish and reckless risks. It is about the small, strategic acts of courage. It is the act of speaking up in a meeting when your heart is pounding. It is the act of making the one phone call you have been avoiding. It is the act of pushing for one more repetition at the gym when your muscles are burning. It is the act of having the difficult but necessary conversation. It is the act of taking a cold shower. These small voluntary hardships are the reps and sets for your character. And here is the great reward. The transcript speaks of this with wisdom. The fastest way to build real self-trust is to do the uncomfortable things you would rather avoid. Every time you face a small voluntary discomfort and you move through it instead of retreating from it, you are making a powerful deposit into your internal account of self-trust. You are building a mountain of irrefutable, factual evidence that you are a person who can be counted on. You are proving to yourself that your commitments are stronger than your comfort, and that quiet, internal knowledge that earns self-trust is the true and unshakable foundation of all lasting confidence. Furthermore, this practice is a form of psychological vaccination. By voluntarily and regularly exposing yourself to small, controlled doses of discomfort, you are vaccinating your nervous system against the fear of large, involuntary hardships. You are training your resilience. You are teaching your mind at a primal level that you can endure. You are robbing the great storms of life of their greatest weapon, which is not the storm itself, but your terror of it. There is a story of the great ancient orator, Demosthenes. He was born, it is said, with a debilitating speech impediment. He did not wish for a better voice. He did not hope for his impediment to magically disappear. He committed to the discipline of daily growth in both its forms. He studied the great speakers, daily learning, and he practiced a regimen of brutal, deliberate discomfort, daily challenge. He would go to the seashore and practice speaking over the roar of the waves to strengthen his lungs. He would fill his mouth with pebbles and force himself to speak with clarity, to master his articulation. He did not run from his weakness. He attacked it with a daily, disciplined, and uncomfortable practice. And in doing so, he transformed his greatest liability into his most magnificent asset and became one of the most powerful speakers in all of history. He did not have a gift. He had a discipline. When you commit to this two-sided discipline, when you commit to being a lifelong student and a daily practitioner of productive discomfort, you create a powerful, self-perpetuating, upward spiral. The new knowledge you gain from your learning gives you the new strategies and the confidence to face a new challenge. The act of facing and overcoming that challenge builds your self-trust in your character, which in turn makes you hungry for more knowledge, to prepare you for the next, even greater challenge. Learning fuels challenge, and challenge fuels learning. And through this process, you are forging a new and powerful identity. You are no longer a person who knows things, or a person who is tough. You are a person who is growing. This is a dynamic, not a static, identity. It is a commitment to the process, not to a final destination. This is the great engine of perpetual improvement that must be installed in the heart of your fortress. It ensures that your architecture never becomes obsolete, that your skills never become dull, and that your character never ceases to expand. The ultimate reward is not just the external success that this growth will inevitably produce. It is the profound, intrinsic, and deeply satisfying joy of the process itself. It is the joy of knowing with absolute certainty that you are a more capable, a more knowledgeable, and a wiser person this year than you were last year. It is the commitment to a life of endless fascination, of perpetual progress, of magnificent, unending becoming. But all of this growth, all of this strength, all of this magnificent construction must be bound together by a single ultimate virtue. It is the virtue that gives all the other disciplines their truth, their power, and their moral direction. This brings us to our seventh and final discipline, the virtue of integrity. We have now reached the final and most sacred chamber of our internal fortress. We have laid the 6 great, load-bearing pillars of an unshakable mind. We have forged a definite purpose, our North Star. We have embraced the art of deliberate discomfort, the engine of our growth. We have cultivated emotional sovereignty, becoming the calm captain of our own inner world. We have established the principle of self-governance, the rule of our higher self over our lower impulses. We have become the architects of our environment, designing a world that supports our ambitions. And we have committed to the discipline of silent execution, letting our results be our only argument. We have built a magnificent and powerful structure of discipline, but there is one final, binding, and almost spiritual element that must be infused into every stone, every joint, and every foundation of this fortress. Without this final element, the entire structure, no matter how impressive it may appear from the outside, is nothing more than a hollow, fragile, and soulless shell, destined to crumble under the first real test of its character. This is the mortar that holds all the other disciplines together. This is the seventh and final discipline. It is not just a practice. It is the ultimate prize. This is the virtue of integrity. To understand integrity, we must go to the very root of the word. It comes from the word integer, which means to be whole, to be complete, to be untouched, to be undivided. Integrity, therefore, is the state of being whole. It is the profound and beautiful alignment between your values, your thoughts, your words, and your actions. It is the state in which there is no gap between the person you claim to be and the person you actually are. The opposite of integrity is the state in which most people live. It is the state of being a fractured self. The fractured self is a person at war with themselves. Their values say one thing, my health is the most important thing to me, but their actions say another, as they reach for the junk food and hit the snooze button. Their words say one thing, I will start my new plan on Monday, but their deeds on Monday morning say another. This internal division, this lack of wholeness, is the ultimate source of all personal weakness, of all anxiety, and of all self-contempt. It is a life of internal friction, where one part of you is constantly trying to move forward, while another part is pulling you backward. It is an exhausting and tragic way to live. Imagine a great and magnificent bell. It is cast from the finest bronze and polished to a brilliant shine. It is decorated with intricate designs, but deep within its structure, there is a small, almost invisible, hairline crack. And now, when the bell is struck, what sound does it produce? It does not produce the clear, resonant, and beautiful tone for which it was designed. It produces a dull, dissonant, and ugly thud. The crack has destroyed its purpose. Integrity is the quality of being without cracks. A person of integrity is a person who rings true in the world. Their life produces a clear and resonant sound because their actions and their values are in perfect harmony. The foundation of all relationships you will ever have in your life, with your family, with your colleagues, with your community, is the relationship you first have with yourself. And the currency of that primary relationship is the promise. Every time you set a goal, every time you make a commitment, every time you declare your definite purpose, you are making a sacred promise to the most important person in your life, yourself. Now, consider what happens when you break that promise. In the moment, it may seem like a small thing. You promised yourself you would wake up at 5 a.m., but in the warm comfort of your bed, you negotiate with yourself and hit the snooze button. It feels like a small, harmless compromise, but it is not. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you are performing a small act of self-betrayal. You are teaching the deepest part of your being that your word is not bond. You are demonstrating, with your own actions, that your commitments are flexible, that your values are negotiable, and that your highest self can be easily overthrown by the demands of your lower, comfort-seeking self. Each of these small betrayals is a withdrawal from your internal account of self-respect. And if you make enough of these withdrawals, over time you will bankrupt your own confidence. You will arrive at a state where you no longer believe your own intentions, because your own long and undeniable track record has proven them to be meaningless. This is the ultimate state of internal poverty. But the law works with equal and magnificent power in the other direction. Every single time you keep a promise to yourself, especially when it is difficult, especially when no one is watching, you make a powerful deposit into that same account. When the alarm rings and you rise, you have made a deposit. When you push through the workout you wanted to skip, you have made a deposit. When you choose the difficult, important work over the easy distraction, you have made a deposit. And this account, your account of self-respect, is governed by the magnificent law of compounding. These small daily deposits of integrity, over time, compound into a vast and unshakable fortune of self-trust. You are, brick by brick, promise by promise, building a reputation with yourself. A reputation as someone who is reliable, someone whose word is law, someone who can be counted on. There is a story of a man who makes two promises. He promises a friend that he will help him move on Saturday morning. He has also made a promise to himself that every Saturday morning, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., is his sacred, non-negotiable time to work on the book he has always dreamed of writing. On Saturday morning, the alarm rings at 5:30. He feels tired. The voice of the resistance whispers, "You have to help your friend today. You need the energy. Just sleep a little longer." He hits the snooze button. He wakes up late, rushes through his morning, and arrives to help his friend, feeling disorganized, flustered, and with a quiet, gnawing sense of guilt. He kept his promise to his friend, yes, but he broke the more important, more foundational promise to himself. And in doing so, he weakened the very source from which his ability to keep all other promises is derived. A person of true integrity understands that the promise made to the self must be held as the most sacred of all. For it is the integrity of your own internal government that gives you the strength and the clarity to be a person of your word in the external world. Now, let us see how this master virtue of integrity is not a separate discipline, but the active living ingredient within all the other six. Integrity is the force behind your definite purpose. It is the integrity to choose a purpose that is true to your highest values and your deepest potential, not just a purpose that is fashionable, easy, or profitable. Integrity is the fuel for the art of deliberate discomfort. It is the integrity to keep your word to yourself, to face the necessary difficulty, even when it hurts, because your commitment is stronger than your comfort. Integrity is the guide for your emotional sovereignty. It is the integrity to act based on your commitments, not your fleeting feelings. It is the unwavering alignment of your actions with your stated values, regardless of the turbulent weather of your internal world. Integrity is the very definition of self-governance. The daily practice of self-governance is the moment-to-moment practice of integrity. It is the higher self, the architect, enforcing the constitutional promises it has made without compromise. Integrity is the blueprint for your architecture of environment. It is the integrity to design a world around you that reflects your true goals, not your secret weaknesses. It is the refusal to live a lie, where you publicly state that you want one thing, but you privately surround yourself with the people, the places, and the things that lead to another. And integrity is the soul of silent execution. Silent execution is the purest expression of integrity. You are doing the work not for the applause, not for the validation, but for the sake of the work itself, for the alignment with your own internal standard of excellence. The work is true because you are true. Do you see? Integrity is not a separate pillar that you add to the others. It is the quality of the stone from which all the other pillars must be carved. Without integrity, discipline is just a rigid and soulless set of rules. With integrity, discipline becomes the joyful, powerful, and authentic expression of your truest and highest self. The ultimate reward of this entire philosophy, the final prize of building an unshakable mind, is the birth of character. And character is simply a reputation. The virtue of integrity is the lifelong art of building a magnificent and unimpeachable reputation with the most important person you will ever have to answer to, yourself. And when you have this, when you have built this internal state of wholeness, of undividedness, of profound self-trust, a new power emerges in your life. It is a quiet power. It is an authority that does not need to be announced. A person of integrity walks into a room, and their presence has weight. Their word is trusted, not because of their title or their wealth, but because it is known at an intuitive level that their word is bond. Their life rings true. This is the ultimate freedom. It is not just the freedom from things, from debt, from a bad job, from the opinions of others. It is the freedom to be a certain kind of person. It is the freedom to be a person of your word, the freedom to be a person who is whole, the freedom to be a person whose life, like a magnificent and flawless bell, produces a clear, resonant, and beautiful sound in the world. This, then, is the capstone of our architecture. It is the quality that makes the fortress not just strong, but magnificent. It is the light that shines from within the finished cathedral. With these 7 disciplines now understood, with our architectural blueprint now complete, we are fully armed. We are ready to leave the classroom of philosophy and to step onto the great and noble construction site of our own lives. We are ready to make our final choice and to begin the work. And so, our architectural study of the unshakable mind, of the powerful presence, comes to its close. We have journeyed together through the 7 great disciplines, from the silent, internal foundation of our thoughts to the visible, external expression of our character. We have stood together in the design room of our own potential, and we have drafted the complete and unabridged blueprint for a life of substance. Let us, for one final moment, stand back and review the magnificent and integrated structure we have designed. For these are not 7 separate, disconnected ideas. They are the interlocking, load-bearing pillars of a single, powerful, and cohesive internal fortress. We began where all true and lasting construction must begin, on the inside. We learned to become the master of our own mind, through the discipline of the internal dialogue, the art of planting the seeds of our own strength in the fertile garden of our first and last thoughts of the day. With this internal foundation poured and beginning to set, we turned our attention to the physical structure that houses this mind. We committed to the discipline of physical presence, understanding that our posture and our appearance are not acts of vanity but nonverbal declarations of our own self-respect. We then learned that a fortress, if it is to have influence, cannot remain isolated. We learned to build bridges to the world through the art of genuine connection, the profound skill of giving the rare and precious gift of our full attention through our unwavering gaze and our deep, active listening. We learned to give our presence its voice, its authority, and its impact through the discipline of deliberate speech, the art of using our words with clarity, with conviction, and with purpose. And we elevated our character from mere strength to nobility with the virtue of magnanimity, the discipline of the great soul, the art of seeing and acknowledging the good in others. We committed to ensuring our fortress is not a static monument, but a living, growing entity, through the commitment to daily growth, the dual practice of daily learning and daily challenge. And finally, we bound the entire magnificent structure together with the unbreakable mortar of the virtue of integrity. We made the ultimate commitment to becoming a person who is whole and undivided, a person whose word is bond, especially and most importantly, to themselves. Do you see the architecture? The central message that underpins this entire philosophy is this: a powerful presence is not a performance to be staged. It is the natural, undeniable radiance of a well-built character. It is an inside-out job. And so, with this knowledge now firmly in your possession, with the blueprint now clear in your mind, you find yourself standing, once again, at the great crossroads we spoke of at the very beginning. From this moment forward, you can no longer claim the comfort of ignorance. You have seen the 2 paths with perfect clarity, and now you must choose. Let us revisit the parable of the 2 builders. The first builder, the builder of most people, takes the blueprint of their potential, admires it for a moment, and then sets it aside. He chooses to build his house of character with the flimsy, easy-to-use materials of public opinion, of fleeting emotions, and of the path of least resistance. His presence is a performance, a fragile facade, designed to please others. And on the calm, sunny days of life, his house looks fine. But it is a house built on sand. The second builder is the architect. He takes this blueprint, and he commits to the difficult work. He chooses to build his house of character with the heavy, difficult, but enduring stones of daily discipline, of chosen discomfort, and of unwavering integrity. The work is slow. It is quiet. It is, from day to day, often unseen and uncelebrated. But he is building his house on rock. And the storms of life, as we have now established with absolute certainty, are not a matter of if, but of when. The rains of criticism will fall. The winds of adversity will blow. And the floods of pressure will rise and beat against those 2 houses. And the first house, the house built on the sand of ease and excuses, will fall. And great will be its fall. It will be washed away, leaving behind nothing but the bitter, muddy foundation of regret. But the second house, the fortress of character, the architecture of an unshakable mind, will stand. It may be battered. It may be tested. The winds may howl against its walls, but it will not fall. It will not be unshaken, but it will be unshakable. You will build one of these two houses with the days of your life. You cannot avoid it. And you will experience one of two pains. The sharp, temporary, and productive pain of building with stone, or the dull, permanent, and destructive ache of watching your fragile identity crumble under the first real test. Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. Today, at this moment, you must choose your building material. This philosophy, this entire lecture, is worthless if it remains an interesting collection of ideas in your mind. Its magnificent power is only unlocked through the friction of application. The great work of building your character does not begin tomorrow. It does not begin next week. It begins in the very next hour, with the very next choice that you make. And your first act as the architect of your own powerful presence is not to attempt to master all 7 disciplines at once. That is the path to overwhelm, which is a swift and certain path back to inaction. Your first act must be small. It must be simple. It must be immediate. Your first act is to choose one discipline from our study, just one, and to take the smallest possible, most courageous action on it today. If you choose the discipline of the internal dialogue, your action today is to take a moment before you sleep tonight to write down one single, undeniable win from your day. If you choose the discipline of physical presence, your action, right now, is to sit up straight, to pull your shoulders back, and to take one deep, deliberate breath. If you choose the virtue of integrity, your action today is to keep one small promise to yourself that you would normally and quietly break. Choose your first stone and lay it now. This is how the cathedral of your character is built.